Good evening, everybody. You're in for a treat with this very quick episode of Give Us a Moment, where we'll be closer to just taking a moment from you than we have in any of our previous episodes. This is Giles Edwards speaking, and I am, as always, for this program with Caleb Johnston. And today we're going to talk about something for about half an hour. What are we talking about?
Oh, come on. You had the perfect opportunity to drop it like a mic. We're going to talk about stupidity.
See, you sound smarter than me, so stupidity sounds that much more from you. And
Uh-huh.
in particular, I have recently, and Caleb slightly less recently, looked at Cipolla's five basic laws of human stupidity, including the neat little graph with an XY axis intersecting on ineffectual people, which is probably roughly where I fall, since I'm kind of smart, but I don't really do much.
Yeah, that's right. I think I would argue that the best part about this one is that we have a fantastic historical work, which we can lean on in light of recent events. So, Carlo Cipolla, I actually am not sure if it's Cipolla or Coppola. I guess it's an Italian name. Do you know if Italian names that start with a single C
It
are
could
meant
be
to be?
Cipolla. Let's check
Yeah.
Mr. Internet or Ms. Internet.
See,
How
here's some stupidity in action right now.
well, this is ignorance. We are trying to
Actually, that's
correct
right.
this. So this
That's right. That's right. Uh,
um, this would be good. All right, okay, come on.
Welcome to How to Pronounce. In today's video, we'll be focusing on words that are compelling or intriguing. So without further ado, let's dive into today's word, cipolla.
Cipolla. So if we were going
Cipolla.
full tilt
Carlo
Italian,
Cipolla. Yeah,
Cipolla. And I want to thank the good people at How to Pronounce on YouTube for that heads up there. So we started at ignorance and
that's
have now
right.
learned,
That's
which
right.
is not what
Which makes us less dumb, but not necessarily intelligent. Only, I guess, only in the sense that we've been learning, I suppose, from our mistakes. Are we maybe at least somewhat intelligent or somewhat less
we're
intelligent?
willing to be intelligent.
That's true. That's true. It takes some effort maybe to become intelligent. Anyway, well, this is a heck of a starter, isn't it?
It's
Well,
as good as I think most of the ones we've done.
that's
So
true. That's true. So, what's amazing about this author, Carlo Cipolla, is he's written a book, The Basic Laws of Human Stupidity, where he creates his own study and taxonomy of the basic laws of human stupidity. This Carlo fella is an economic historian. So, his focus and his profession is really about economics. And specifically how it has been framed by history. He actually goes into historical accounts in this book to try and illustrate his point. But he ultimately creates a two-axis chart upon which everyone may be graphed. And the general idea here is that along these two axes, you have the benefits to others versus benefits to oneself, and actions that are helpful or unhelpful. So basically, it's like every single person may be in a situation in which they are either helping themselves, helping others, harming themselves, harming others, or some combination of those two. So helping and harming in oneself or others. And then in doing this, you have four quadrants on these two axes, and he says that the lower left quadrant would be, actually, I'll end on the lower left quadrant. The upper right quadrant of helping others and helping oneself is the group of intelligent people. He would say people who are intelligent but only helping themselves, even at the expense of others, are bandits. These are people who are making their way in the world, even at the expense of others, but at least they're being benefited along the way. And then there are people who are not helping themselves, but trying to help others, which is the helpless or gullible people. And these are people who maybe are themselves easy to take advantage of. There are people who are benefiting other folks. Maybe they're not stupid so much as they are a rube, maybe. And then you have people on the lower left quadrant. These are people who are hurting themselves and while also hurting others. And this is the stupid people, right? The people who are coming up with ideas that only hurt themselves and others. And the problem with stupid people, especially in Carlo's perspective, is that there are a lot more of them than you think, and their damage is far greater than what you imagine. And he uses stories from history, and also economics, macroeconomics primarily, to illustrate his point. And he also argues in this book that society must take great care not to be governed or ruled over by stupid people and must instead do everything that they can in their power to be ruled over by intelligent people.
Now, so
And
here's
yeah,
if I may slide in a quick
oh
question
yeah,
that
for
the
sure.
audience member may be pondering. Uh, what if these stupid people are already in charge? Does Mr. Cipolla have any advice for how to maybe a society to dig itself out of the hole they find themselves in?
Uh, Unfortunately,
I like quick
I,
fixes,
I,
by the way.
I yeah, unfortunately, I don't believe he provides any compelling remedy for a situation in which one may be governed by stupid people. Um, However, one of the things that he does highlight, which is a big problem with people who are stupid, is that they behave in somewhat random ways. And the reason he says somewhat random is because you must accept that these people are unable to clearly think through what would benefit them. And even if they had no interest in helping others or hurting others, they didn't care. They even have a hard time figuring out what is really going to benefit them. So they easily engage in behavior that would seem confounding to others who know what would hurt or help them.
Yeah.
And we also see this behavior in mass in American society as well, where people vote against their own best interest time and time again, unawares of this, and also unable to come to terms with the fact that they may be acting not in their own self-interest, but actually in the interest of others at their own expense.
Yeah.
And this has also led to the rise of not only the far right in government, but also a great deal of anger and angst inside of our own society. You have to also accept that stupid people who are generally going to be not achieving their own goals, not benefiting, and also not aware of how they can benefit themselves, will find themselves enraged,
Yeah.
angry,
Yeah.
furious, even, especially the more they realize that other people have it better off. Now, I'm not trying to paint a broad swath of the American people as being stupid, but I do think there's a lot of them.
And theory suggests there are more than we might
Imagine.
imagine. So,
Yeah.
but I will leap to the U.S.'s defense. Sort of. This isn't just
Sort
an
of.
issue in our country. I read enough international news to observe that
Yeah.
stupidity is not exclusively an American problem, no matter how much Canada might say it is.
Yeah, yeah. Also true. You can go anywhere in the world and find stupidity. Fortunately, um, we don't have a monopoly on it, but neither does anyone else.
I mean, that would be, I
Um,
guess, I'd feel better maybe if we did because, okay, sure, we're doing this, but that's because we have
we
them. We
collectively
collected
have a
them.
monopoly.
They're
Yeah,
here, and so the rest of the world will be in
it's
a better
better off.
position,
Yeah,
yeah, to
yeah,
uh,
yeah. We would be
to
doing our part, helping the
govern
rest of them. Yeah,
sagely and bring
creating
about.
a honeypot for the dumb folks out there. Actually, we shouldn't even say dumb because dumb it means people are unawares. They don't know things, right? And that's and they may not know that they don't know things. Ignorance, right?
Yeah,
But we're talking about stupid people, people who think they know things but actually don't even learn from their own mistakes. And
or
maybe
are ignorant and despite any opportunity to correct
to learn,
this, refuse
yeah,
that.
remain in the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely lots of stupid people. You know it when you see it. And I think the reason why I find this to be so galling right now is because I think historically, if you look at the system that America created by trying to achieve a meritocracy, which I learned a little bit about this year when we focused on developing our own institutions after the Gilded Age, specifically trying to focus on the investment in our education system, specifically higher education, but also primary and secondary school. We had this vision of a society that would be creating pipelines that led to great merit, and we did focus on intelligence as a society early on. I read an article about this. Maybe it was about last year, I want to say, and I forget which president supported this plan, but it was also the president of Harvard who had basically lobbied for it in against Congress, and ultimately had been able to hold sway over the governing bodies of the country to support a meritocracy, a meritocratic system. And the meritocratic system didn't just flourish automatically. It took a certain consensus amongst the elite of the population that this was a good idea and we should
Yeah.
pursue it. And then we fostered it for decades. Even though you might say there's been cronyism and there's been graft and there's been corruption, all those things are true too. And those are also been perpetrated by the elite class in certain respects as well. So there's no denying that. I do agree with lots of my fellow family members who would say that the elite has pulled the wool over the eyes of the American middle class. I think that's also kind of true. But at the same time, I would say the people who have been doing the best economically, socially, so on, have been the people who are the most talented, the most gifted, the most intelligent, and the most ambitious,
Well,
the
certainly
most industrious.
ambitious. I'm
But
and
but
in,
I would also say this: some of that has come at the expense of others, and some of it hasn't, right? And so, actually, Cipolla would say, if it ever came at the expense of others, then it wasn't intelligent people. Maybe it was
that's
industrious people.
true.
Maybe it
That's
was
a
ambitious
bit of
people.
banditry there.
Yeah, yeah, banditry. Yeah, yeah. This is very successful and effective bandits. People who are wise enough, maybe I don't know what the right term would be, to game the system, but certainly
Cunning.
not
I think cunning might
intelligent.
be a good word.
Cunning is a good term. Yeah, yeah. Maybe the bandits are really the cunning, and I don't know. The intelligent, I would say, is maybe just the good, right? You're talking about people
Yeah, with
who themselves are good, but
yeah,
also good
from
for
my
others.
brief reading and certainly observing this graph within the framework Chipola has put forward here, intelligent, yes, as a broad category, those are good people who want to improve themselves, certainly, and at least seem to not be against improving things for other people. Depending upon where you
Right.
fall, on this
Yeah.
or where in these, quadrants. Let's see. Certainly quadrant one, and maybe along the periphery, the very low Y value, and quadrant four, if you are conceptualizing this. I was going to share my image of this, except it would require us to restart our Zoom thing, and that's, whatever, man. Caleb was able
Yeah.
to give a very nice audio description, which is good for our hard of seeing viewers and listeners. Yeah, one
Yeah.
thing I wanted to bring up about let's see, the Meritus people winning, that I think is more of an ideal to be pursued than what we're actually at. But that
Sure. Sure.
said, I am nostalgic for the days where we acknowledged that was an ideal to be pursued, even though it wasn't reality, as opposed to, we'll say, more recent developments, which kind of have an official active discouragement of self-betterment.
And intelligence.
Well, certainly intelligence, yes. But yes,
Yeah.
the ambitious, cunning types. Yeah, if we'll talk about, I'll talk in broad terms using stereotypes concerning the VC crowd.
Oh
Those
yeah, yeah. So those
guys,
are bandits.
almost
Yeah.
exclusively guys who have this, seem to equate the capacity to, we'll say, earn somewhere between earn and bilk others out of prodigious amounts of money Uh,
Yeah.
Seems to give a lot of them the impression that they know everything when, as we all know from days, at least in Western world, days of ancient Greek, one of the top minds of those very top mind times admitted that the first thing he knew was that he knew nothing. I think that
Yeah.
was Socrates.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yes, there would do well, and I'm not talking about psychotic Middle Age, Dark Age era Christian degrees of this. It would do well to have some self-doubt and humility uh, sprinkled amidst these, anyone with intelligence and ambition, if they either start with a capacity to doubt themselves or can be cut down to size and learn from such a thing, I strongly feel there would be a considerable improvement to society overall, wherein these groups of people who have increasingly gotten their mitts all over the levers of power realize, oh, I shouldn't just randomly pull these things.
Well,
I
they
might
learned this
make a
one.
mistake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some people certainly have come to terms and grappled with this onerous obligation that they have signed themselves up for. But that does not reflect the people who are in power pulling these levers now. So such is life, I suppose. And I don't think Chipola is going to help us out of this one. But I will say, um, there have been great swings that have taken place in other countries around the world in different periods of time. And this could be such a great swing where we, fall from grace after all of our hubris and
Hmm.
pride, um, only to be uh, only to be restored, perhaps in virtue, which I wouldn't be so opposed to, right? If we can
Yeah.
improve the common cause of our fellow citizens without having to pull the wool over their eyes or bilk them of their rightfully earned income, that may
Yeah.
not be such a bad thing.
If this experience leads us to turn a corner instead of navigate a dark alley indefinitely, I will be more than sanguine about it. This hinges, and those of you, Patrick, who listen to us, know that I'm on the left side of things. But my hope is that in the House elections coming up in a year and a half now, that A, they happen, B, the current opposition gains considerable support and therefore representatives in both chambers of Congress, and then C, are able to bring the what I consider to be malevolent and idiotic forces to heel, at the very least, if not undo the appalling amount of damage that has been done for our uh, political, military, and economic standing the world over.
Yeah, the world over. Yeah, it's definitely a challenging situation for sure. And I think the other thing too would maybe be worth considering is that we as a country, I think, have managed to coast along for quite some time without having to, with an assumption that our system of governance and our system of our economic system
Yeah,
is kind of working. It's on rails, so to speak, right?
yeah.
But now we see that that's not so much the case. Maybe this
Hmm.
will invite some new ideas, some new thinking, um, some fresh perspective. That's not just, well, we need to burn it all to the ground
Oh,
so that we can start afresh.
I hate those
Um,
burn it to the ground people because, man, well, first of all, the odds of the new system coming from the ashes being better are close to nothing. And
yeah.
the follow-up to that is in the interim, there's going to be a lot of suffering that really wouldn't be necessary in a,
Yeah,
well, let's improve the system kind of mentality. Yeah, whenever I encounter some types who are, yes, of the burn it all down, usually burn it all down from, the, well, this word doesn't really mean much anymore, but from the far fringe socialist outlook of burn it all down. And I have. have a personal rejoinder I'm able to put forward to them is like, ah, so you would like, oh, I don't know, my mother to be dead now. And there's a
Right.
context for
Because
that.
yeah.
My mother is a cancer survivor. She has some medications which are helping to keep her this way. If you knock down the system to the degree that it's being argued for by those types, you're losing basically the capacity for most any moderate to serious medical treatment of anyone. So it's a very ableist. And I use that word, I don't like that word. I acknowledge there's merit to it, but I use it in these cases because these are the kinds of people who are often very self-conscious about various isms they don't want to be. And so it
Hmm.
is like, anyone who's, yeah, any burn it down person is like, okay, healthy people might be all right, maybe. Anyone not healthy is doomed
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah. Health is
And
also somewhat random, I mean, it's like
yeah,
at least when it comes to like major congenital issues, obviously, lifestyle contributes to it, but more over the long term than over the short term. But yeah, it's challenging. I have a friend of mine who actually was on Medicaid as a 20 something person because he had cystic fibrosis,
mhm,
which the state would offer care for, and allowed him to live to the age of 26, which is actually quite old for people who have cystic fibrosis. But he would have never made it even close to that, might not have made it half that way if he wasn't cared for with some support from the US government.
right.
Um, and that's just, I mean, it's a shame and a tragedy for anyone to die, especially young, from a disease like that. But he would have never had a chance if it weren't for
Yeah.
income like that coming from the federal government, which I'm in support of.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a
This is, I think
taxpayer,
this is a good way. Maybe we can get back to our main thing. Is like I firmly believe that um, purpose of government at its most basic is protecting the citizens. Is an argument I'd make, and elaborating on that slightly, helping other people that we happen to, live around and amongst is part of
Yeah,
that, such as, state and federal aid for people with various unfortunate afflictions that, they wouldn't otherwise be able to address because we are not yet in our post-toil abundance automated society where, mysteriously everything is sorted out through, well, obviously there are some proponents.
central planning.
Central planning, those aren't necessarily dirty words. They're typically dirty words, but yes, there's unfortunately, I will be full of contradictions every time you hear me, or at least disagreements within myself, because I see too many sides to things. But regardless, it's a matter of helping the stupid people. Obviously, needs to happen at least to curb the destructive possibilities.
Yeah, interesting. The opposite, the flip side of a meritocracy, right, is that people with very little merit receive very little, right? What about people who are disadvantaged in some structural way,
Right.
who never had enough capacity or faculty to be able to take care of themselves as an adult for independent living?
Yeah.
This is an interesting question as well, right? Because there's definitely people, not a large percentage, but still a number of people who would be in that camp as well. And we should be able, society should be able to support them. But
Certainly within the context of a country as wealthy as the United States, there is no particularly good excuse for an inability to deal with either the financially disadvantaged, the physically disadvantaged, mentally disadvantaged, etc. Um, there are obviously any number of diversions for a finite amount of resources, but that said, that those are problems to address in a not burn it down kind of way, at the very least by not nationally shooting ourselves in the head.
oh yeah, in the head,
I wish it were the
right at the
foot,
top.
but I think it's the head.
Yeah, yeah, not good.
And
Um,
so to help these stupid people, we have let me check my handy Cipolla graph here. All right, so intelligent people should be on it. That's, part of what they do. Helpless people, well, I guess they're helpless by definition. When we were sort of brainstorming this 2 or 3 weeks ago, before we rescheduled the actual recording, it was brought up deputizing the bandits.
yeah,
It's some to
deputizing the bandits.
convince these types who have mental capacity and know how to benefit themselves, which to me suggests they theoretically know how that others can benefit too. They're just not inclined toward it. But harnessing ill-intentioned but skilled individuals into helping with one, the stupid, and secondarily, the helpless.
Hmm.
How do we
Yes.
do that, Caleb? How do we get these bandits to work for the good guys?
Uh, well, I will say we did have a system for this, and the system was as follows. Anyone can create a business. All they have to do is have an idea, and the U.S. government will even give them any ample opportunity to write off their taxes, so as they basically don't get taxed as long as they're not making money, and even when they are making money, they're not taxed until they make a certain amount, which would be considered to be successful enough to pay taxes,
Hmm.
right? So anyone can do this. This means you could be a farmer, you could be, a cleaner, you could be anything. And if you were ambitious and industrious and ambitious and talented enough or intelligent enough, let's say, um, you could grow your business and make even more money and realize the American dream. But you would always be in competition with others who were similarly ambitious and industrious and intelligent and able to make their own way. And the idea being that if all of these folks who are exceptional in some way or another are able to thrive with their own business, but still be held in check by competition, by the free market.
And
Um,
also, if I may briefly interject here, I'll call it government regulation for perhaps lack of a better phrase. Various things like the FDA, OSHA, and all
sure.
those other
Yeah.
things as like, okay, so for like the minimum floor for you to be allowed to do what you're doing within the society.
Right. So regulation and competition, right? This is how we deputized the bandits before. We managed markets so that you would have, uh, you know, the ability for multiple entrants, and also the ability to compete locally as well as nationally. And ultimately, I think this method of managing the bandits and deputizing them, let's say, has fallen apart in the wake of corporate capitalism, right? So
Mm.
once companies got large enough to basically deflect or defend themselves against the management, the managerial forces at work and the regulatory forces at work that the government was using, they could essentially get away with their profits, have their cake and eat it too, and control the government, keep them at bay while doing it. And this ultimately led to lots of large companies getting larger and richer and staffing themselves up with people who are making more and more money. And but they also kind of are a minority in terms of the job creation that goes on in the
Mm.
country, and therefore ultimately exacerbate the difference between the rich and the poor, which I think has been actually a sore, festering wound that we've suffered for a good 50 years now, which is perhaps one of the greatest groundswells of support for radical options like
Mm.
completely dismantling the US government or what have you.
Yeah, and I guess there are elements on both edges of this horseshoe of politics we may be conceptualizing here. The left side, I can sort of get more in that. Okay, they want redistribution in a sort of equalizing way. They want, squish down those resources and perks and toys, baubles, food down so it gets closer to having equity between everyone. So I can, the methodology of the far left is usually what I object to as opposed to necessarily what they want. I don't know, however, since we're in this odd circumstance where it's sort of the right side that just seems to really want to go for I don't know, like funnel all the power into a smaller and smaller group.
Yeah, right. Right. Which is shocking.
Which is a frame of mind
Um,
that is just sort of, I can't, like, what, it's like, I sit here, I will ask you, and this is theoretical. Why would anyone want that? I mean,
yeah, I don't
that
know.
it's not nice. And it results
Yeah.
in a lot less cool society-wide thing, which I guess is part of my difficulty in that I can't, it's like, well, there are these billions of other people that,
Yeah.
you shouldn't just be jerks to them.
Yeah.
This small
Um,
coterie of courtiers
and yet
kings.
here we are.
And people voted for it.
Yeah.
The
They
large
said this
group
is
that
sweet.
Cipolla tried to warn us about.
Yeah. Just got crazy with their votes. Yeah. So what do we do from here? I guess I don't know. I guess we're gonna find out. Um, yeah, that's just the way it goes. Think the most my one of my favorite tweets of the year I've seen is didn't even fuck around but was forced to find out.
Yeah. Yeah,
This
a
is
lot
true
of
for us.
a lot of people. It's like, yeah, because I think, and I may have mentioned this, I don't know if in the context with you at some point or maybe earlier, but I think there are enough people who are ready for history to be done. Like that book that came out, I think, was at the late 90s, The End of
Yeah,
History, which
and the
has
last
obviously
man.
not happened,
Yeah,
unfortunately. But I think there are
sadly.
enough people who would be fine with that. It's just they're not always voting in the
Yeah.
numbers
Also,
required.
and even I think there's another thing too, which is that when we get close enough to it, people become disenfranchised. They're like, okay, well, it's not a big priority anymore because things are going fine, so they stop
They'll
voting.
always
So it's
go
like almost
fine.
like a well, I mean, it kind of does for some people, right? I think there's a lot of people who haven't voted until more recently because they're basically fine with the status quo. And then now things have gotten to go off the rails, and you start seeing bigger voter turnout than we've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And I think it's because people are becoming concerned about what's happening. Yeah.
What's that? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I have
Uh,
not converted that to metric, so apologies for non-US listeners. I'm sure it's equally pithy. Let's
You
see.
know, Giles, I think we're running out of time here, but one thing I have to point out, and maybe this could be added to an appendix or in the post, but the link that you sent me from this blog that describes Cipolla's graph of stupidity for this book. If you look at his most recent post, it's American fascist, how to spot them and stop them. And it just reprints a Army talk orientation fact sheet, which talks about how to spot and stop an American fascist. Can you
Printed in
believe that?
1944.
Yeah,
Hmm.
1944. Yeah,
Hey, that's when we knew
uh,
a thing or two about stopping them.
yeah. I suppose you're right. Anyway, I just had to point that out, maybe
Yeah, yeah,
for further review beyond the scope of this conversation.
yeah. I'm trying to let's see if I click the home button. So, all right. So, yeah, where we're looking at this is TWARR1 dot blogspot.com. That's twar1.blogspot.com. Has some great little articles there, including one with the graph that we've talked about extensively, and of course, nice orientation on how to spot a fascist, be they foreign or local. So I will say thank you to Mr. Chipolla for your various additions to the rhetoric here. And seeing as we have 2 minutes, I'm going to have us end before we're cut off. So thank you to those who have been listening or watching us. And having done this for the first time in a while, I'm feeling excited. And of course, this new shorter format is keeping us on point, which I imagine anyone who might be stuck hearing us appreciates as
Yeah. That was a great way to wind down.
well.
Thanks, thanks. I can't believe anyone would be listening to this, especially now. But thanks for listening, and also thanks for hosting this one, Giles.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're welcome. And all the best from Give Us a Moment, and you'll see us again sometime.